Hi everybody. I'm looking at the initial results from the functions assignment, that first functions assignment with getInt and getFloat. And I'm realizing that maybe I wasn't especially clear in the assignment, or as clear as I needed to be. Sometimes a little hard to tell remotely exactly how clear I'm being. I think part of the reason for that is that we are now getting to a part of the assignments that is more about the structure of programs than it is about just the output. So I want to do a brief demonstration about functions. And when you're dealing with functions, you want to think about functions are like a play call in sports, right? You design it when you create the function definition with the def command, right? That's like drawing up the play. And then but all that does is draws up a play. It doesn't mean that it's even going to get used in your program unless you call that play, unless you call that function. So you can call the play as many times as it'll keep on working or as it's valuable to you in a game, right? You might run the same play again and again. That's the way it is with code. And the value with functions is that it lets you reuse your code in a variety of ways depending on how you design it to work. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick demonstration here. So, and I'm going to call this function demo.py. Okay. And let's imagine that I just want to draw a bunch of dots, right? 7, and let's say I want to do that 5 times. 3, 4, 5. Okay? And if I run that, it prints that. But what if I want to do it some random number of times, right? So obviously, let me go back. Obviously, we can get more out of this by using a loop, right? For n in range 5. I'm in the wrong programming language here. I've been doing JavaScript lately. Okay. So my parentheses are off and all of that, but there we go. F5, enter. So now I can easily change it so that it does a different number of things, right? So I could do 20 just by adjusting the program that way. But what if I want to also change how many dots I do, right? So I can fix this by end equals quote, quote, enter. So I think what this should do is print 20 dots in a line. That's what I'm experimenting with. And there it is, 20 dots in a line, right? Okay. So I could do some number of dots. So if I wanted to do one that's 20 by 20, I can put this in a separate loop, right? And then I pop that out. And then after each round, I'm going to print just to get a new line started. So now I've got a 20 by 20 box. And if I want to change it, I can make it a 5 by 20. We'll make it a 5 by 10 box. There it is. Okay. So I've got control, but what if I wanted to be able to do this a bunch of times and have different sized boxes, right? So what I could do is put this into a function that takes in some arguments and it's not going to return anything, right? So I want to make a play out of this. I'm going to create a function. Def draw box width and length. Okay. I'm going to call it height since we're printing that way, right? And then I bring all this in here. Now, how do I apply width and height? So these are values I'm going to bring in as arguments, right? And what happens is when I call it, if I draw a box 5, 10, what it does is it calls, and this first one matches this one, so width becomes the value 5, and in this function, it is called width, okay? and height becomes 10, and in this function it's called 10. If I call it again and I make it 20 and 100, then that time through width is going to be 20 and height is going to be 100. Okay, but right now I'm not using it. I haven't put width and height anywhere. It's still going to just draw a 5 by 10 box, right? So my height is the 5, right? That's the outer loop. So I'm going to change 5 to height, and then my width goes here. And so I should end up, I'm going to print dash 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 next box so that it's clear when there's a difference. And I'm going to print box demo. So we go here and we run it. So we got one that is height is 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And one that is rather a lot, 20 by 100, and about 4 times as wide, right? Yeah, that looks about right. So that's kind of how functions are working. Now, I can return, let's say that I want to send a value back. And in this case, I'm going to send back what the area is. Obviously, that's really easy to calculate, but I'm going to return the area, which obviously is going to be width times height. So I return width times height. I could make that a little clearer by saying area equals width times height, and I'm going to return area. Okay. Now right now this should still run even though I'm not doing anything with area, right? I should trash that so that everything's clear. So we see that it ran, right? It doesn't do anything with area. But if I assign a variable to the result of drawbox, right? So this area equals drawbox 510. What this does is calls drawbox. It does all this stuff, draws the box, and then it calculates the area and sends it back. Area comes down here and becomes this area, so I can print this area, this box's area is this area. And maybe I'll need to do that. And I'll print if I'm going to call this next area. And I'm going to do something different just to show that you're working with the values and you can take them separately and do a variety of things with them. I'm going to say if next area is greater than this area, then, see, I've been playing in a different language too much. I'm going to print this box is bigger. Elif next area is less than this area, then I'm going to print this box. This one is smaller. Else, I'm going to print these boxes have the same size. Okay, so I'm just doing something different with the areas so that we can see how that would work. Okay, so right now 5 and 10, that's going to be 50. This is going to be 2000, so I'm expecting it to say this box is bigger. Whenever you're testing a program, you want to understand what output you're expecting so that it can create what you want, and you can verify that you did it right. I didn't trash it, but we see this box is bigger. Box demo, this box's area is 50. This box is bigger. So now if I make it 10 by 5, and I'm going to clear out my output here so that I can run it again. What am I expecting this time? Well, 5 times 10 is 50, and 10 times 5 is 50. So I'm expecting it to say these boxes have the same, let's change it to area to be clear. They're not really the exact same size. Now I'm all over the place. There we go. This box's area is 50. These boxes have the same size, or the same area. So I can call that function as many times as I want. I can have it put those, call that function from as many times as I want. I can have them call it inside of a loop for and in range 100. What I'll do is I'll draw a box and comma n. So it should draw 100 boxes going from 1, 1 to 100, or 0, 0. I'm not sure how that's going to go. It'll print nothing, right? Or it'll won't do anything. I'm not doing anything with my area. I could say area equals draw box n comma n, and then I could print area. So draw a box, show the area. F5, enter. 9,801 apparently is what one that is 99 by 99 equals. Let me zoom this up a little bit so we can see a little bit more. Okay, so now I've got boxes that are theoretical squares, even though they're clearly not actually squares. I ran out my work, right? So we can see that functions provide us, I don't need to go back and make all that correct and waste your time. We can see that functions allow us to reuse code a whole bunch of times. I've just drawn 101 different sized boxes and printed their areas or responded to their areas with a grand total of 24 lines of code. That's including a couple of space lines. So that's pretty good. So functions, again, are like play calls. They let you create the play, and then you can call it from anywhere that you want. So for the assignment that has to do with the getInt and the getFloat, what we want is the ability to what we want from the in the wrong language again. What we want from the getInt /getFloat assignment. I want to be able to write a base program that says something like this: n equals getInt how old are you, right? And then I want to print, do something with that. I can say if, I'm going to change n to age, age equals getInt how old are you. If age is greater than, is less than 5, then we'll print aren't you adorable, else print lovely. Great. We'll say great instead of lovely. Somebody might think lovely's condescending or something. I think adorable is probably condescending to anybody who's much older than 5. 5's probably safe. Right now it's complaining because I don't have getInt, right? But I might also want to be able to say how many Legos equals getInt how many Legos do you have? And then I could print Legos is a lot of Legos or something, right? So I can use that getInt then for whatever I want. And all that we need is a function that's going to, and it's a play call, that's going to use that loop you wrote in the last assignment to make sure that the input it gets is valid, and to ask them for it again if they give you something that's not valid, and then return the result of that, okay? So that's what we want out of that getInt, and getFloat would obviously be something different. So temp equals getFloat. What is your temperature now? And then if temp is greater than 100, then print, ooh, might want to talk to a doctor about that. Yes. And so on. Now, your job is to use the function skills to write the function that's going to do that. You're welcome to incorporate the code you used with the loop that was the getInt, adjust one for a getFloat, and you'll be all set. Okay, I hope that helps to clear things up and to describe the value of functions a little bit better. The textbook maybe goes into more detail and misses some of those higher ideas. It's my hope that this will solve some of that. So thank you all. Please share questions on this as well as you go so we can get those answered. Bye.